Currently, Bill Cosby is facing a civil lawsuit that has been filed by a woman who claims that she was raped by him when she was 15 years old. The woman is Judy Huth, and prosecutors want to make sure that he gives a deposition in this case, similar to how he gave a deposition back in 2005 that got him into a lot of trouble recently. And thankfully, the judge has ordered him to testify and give a deposition in this case. Now, according to reports, the ruling issued Wednesday was in response to a motion from Cosby's legal team seeking to dismiss a civil suit filed by Judy Huth, a woman who says she was a teenager when Cosby drugged and raped her at the Playboy Mansion. The judge said that he doesn't really care what the defense wants. He wants Bill Cosby to give the deposition in this case. The judge also will decide which part of Cosby's responses will be released to the public. Okay, so one thing to keep in mind is it's unlikely for us to see any of the deposition until December, and even then we don't know if we're going to see the full thing or just bits and pieces of it. But it's really important that he's going to be forced to speak on this. Yeah, finally. So long overdue, and he's been hiding for a long time, right? He's used his power to put down press stories in the past. Well, now when you're in court, you really can't hide any longer. So I guess he's got till December until we actually see what his real answers are. And look, he claims he's innocent, right? And he's got still some defenders left in the public and among some high-profile celebrities. We'll find out. Does he have good answers, right? I doubt it, but we'll see, right? Yeah. If you're Bill Cosby and you think you're innocent, you should be ecstatic about this. Yeah, it's your opportunity to testify and to attempt to prove that you're innocent, right? And look, he doesn't have to prove that he's innocent. There needs to be proof that he's guilty, right? But in this case, it's interesting because it's a civil suit. This is not a criminal case. I don't know if it could eventually turn into a criminal case. I think there's a possibility of that. But just keep in mind that there are about 50 women who have come forward with very similar stories of either sexual assault or rape. And the 2005 deposition included his own statements indicating that he bought Quaaludes with the intention of drugging women. So I don't know if the statute of limitations has run on the criminal case for this particular issue, but understand the weight of the evidence that you need in a criminal versus civil case. Roughly speaking, in a criminal case, you have to prove that someone is it's guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, which means roughly about 99% chance that he did it, right? Super rough, but that's the guidance that they sometimes give you. In a civil case, you just have to prove that he likely did it. So it's just 51%. If you think it's 51% more likely that he did it, then he loses, okay? So that's an easier standard for the person who suffered in this case to prove their case if, in fact, they did, right? But if you're Bill Cosby and you've been pilloried in the press so far, and imagine if you didn't do it, and all these people saying it over and over again, I would be jumping at the chance to defend myself, right? So, I mean, he shouldn't want to delay the release of the deposition, right? He should want the deposition out there right away if he thinks he's innocent. But that's not what he's arguing for. That's not what he's arguing for. I mean, how much more? And for those who are watching this, who continuously defend this man, how much more evidence do you need? Like the fact that his lawyers are fighting so hard to make sure that this deposition doesn't become public. Why is that? Yeah, think about it.